talk because I wasn't sure me and Stanley were going to do much on today. I actually made it safely to Savannah and back in a 24-hour period driving. So, but it was a lot of stress on it for us all the time. We're going to just sit and talk today. We're at the last phase in the prayer. Lead us not into temptation, deliver us from evil. So I want each of us to kind of think about that for a moment. For you, what is temptation?
Negative self-talk.
Negative self-talk. Okay. All right.
Judging others.
Judging others.
I think it means getting stuck in the status quo and getting bored with life. Because if I remember right from what I studied about those verses, it has to do with newness and like a new day. It's like when you start a new job, or you join a new church, or you move to a new community, or you get into a relationship with a new person, your whole world is transformed. And everything becomes fresh and new and exciting. And you actually become a different person, a different being. You're more positive, you're effervescent, you're filled with optimism and life. And then life takes its toll, and you get bored with everything, and life becomes uninteresting. And I think the temptation is to allow yourself to fall into that rut of sameness. Okay. And what Jesus is encouraging us to do there is do not succumb to temptation, but to be renewed every moment of every day as if you've fallen in love all over again and everything's fresh and new.
Okay.
On top of what Garrett is saying, I think is because I'm always
Bored.
But I'm always thinking about attachments.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So what he's saying is, getting stuck on the same thing is because we're attached to the same thing. You know, this is our house, this is our car, this is the people we talk to, these are the things we like to do. I want to do that, and I don't want to do nothing else. I don't want anything fresh and new. I'm scared to open up to experiencing something new. So we get attached to those things. Of course, we get attached to material things and relationships and things that we want, and we forget about who we really are, or at least trying to discover that.
So what does that phrase of the prayer, how does that address those things for you? When he says, lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. How does that help? How does that apply to your attachment issues?
You're tempted to either do something, either do the same thing and not open up, or you're tempted to go after something that doesn't serve you. And then which leads to evil. And to me, evil is just really something that doesn't serve you.
Spell evil.
E-V-I-L.
L-I-V-E.
And love. L-I-V-E. There you go.
Evil is life,
Yeah.
backwards.
That's right.
I think what it means is we're supposed to leave our life partners and have an affair.
That's a good temptation. Good temptation. And you're given the freedom to do so.
Listen, if it's what God wants.
When can you leave?
We sure have a packing part.
If I'm on the sit, just go in the other room. You ain't got to leave the house.
I think the phrase when in the context that he's saying in the Lord's Prayer into evil. In other words, he knows that his Father is providing everything that he will ever need, so that he doesn't have to ever compromise his life or his values and go against his Father, because he knows his Father's not going to lead him somewhere where his needs aren't met.
And the thing that Deborah said earlier in her, when she was talking about that, doing it and going back and jumping up doing it yourself, a lot of times we don't trust enough. We get impatient. And so we jump. That's one of those temptations is, okay, but I gotta do it. I gotta handle this. I gotta fix it. And not trusting and not knowing that we're not going to be that. It is well. It is done. And Lord, I've been praying on this for a while. Where you at? Time is moving.
Wait on.
I found that.
In the present moment.
Right, we need to be right now.
And I found that those things that we are trying to accomplish or take care of or control, control.
Control.
Once we just surrender, and I'm talking about Flo. I ain't talking about nobody else. But once we just surrender, and God moves, His movement is immediate. It's a lesson that I have to learn sometimes over, because this human part of me says I want it now. The human part says that, but once we get to the part where, okay, Lord, I prayed and I waited and I've done and I just can't do anymore. Once that surrender is there, that total and complete heartfelt surrender, then God moves right in.
So some of that temptation is to retain the control.
That's the bottom line.
Instead of the surrendering and releasing.
Well, that comes from fear.
From fear. And so what is that fear? It comes from what is that fear if I let go of this, if I don't do it?
It's going to all fall apart, and we're going to all die with it, whatever.
Or it's going to go to hell in a handbasket. If I don't do this, it's not going to get done. You know what I'm saying? If you want something done right, do it yourself. Some of us get tempted to live in that mentality and to stay there and live there.
Yeah, I got it all figured out. I don't know if God knows what he's doing.
We're gonna help you, girl.
I was thinking of that stuff. We'll have a committee meeting.
Right. There's a reason. There's a reason. There's a
Well,
reason.
they say that nature likes a vacuum, and the reality is if we, sort of just because of our training and patience is part of it, but we jump into an opportunity or whatever, it doesn't quite feel right, but it's the mentality of, well, if I don't do it, it won't get done type of thing. But if we do just take that opportunity to give ourselves permission to say no, or let me think about it, or let me sleep on it, or then Spirit might put in the exactly right person, or the next great opportunity that comes around the corner type of thing. And so I think it's important. The temptation is to sort of jump and get involved in the organization I'm involved in. It's sort of like planification, execution, and then labor, but we've been really taught to labor. Yeah, and the problem is that we didn't do the planning. We're out of the grocery store buying the eggs we thought we had when we started the cake, and that kind of thing. So I think it's important to, in the temptation to be, lead us not into temptation. It's, again, it's that feeling of trust. There are things that just feel right and just go with it, and then there's other things that just don't feel right. And I think really that it's our feelings that knows the difference, not our head.
Yes,
Our head can really do a gymnastic,
lead us into evil.
training type of thing, but it's our feelings that. I just watched that. I like that Sunday morning CBS program. It always has something uplifting, this man who had forgotten that he had wanted to be a doctor. He was, did you watch that this week?
I told her about it.
Yeah, he wanted to be a doctor, but his family was poor, and so he went and became a mechanic. And then he decided he had his own shop, so he wanted to go back to college and get a business degree, but they made him take biology. And he's like, well, why do I, as a business major, need to take biology? But then once he got into biology, all the memories of being a doctor came back. And he followed that path. And, people would say, well, it's going to take you 9 years to be a doctor. He goes, well, I'm going to live 9 years anyway.
Yeah.
Why don't I live doing what I really want to do rather than just continuing on a path, he didn't say these words, but it doesn't serve me. And he's now finished medical school, and he's a resident in Cleveland. I thought, oh, that is such a great message, because he's in his late 40s, and I have a friend who became a physical therapist assistant in her 50s. And it's never too late to, follow those feelings and acknowledge them and take action.
And feeling, I think, is the action of the soul. Feeling comes from the soul.
That's that quiet voice that speaks of that the kingdom of heaven is within us, and that's where we express. It is as a man thinketh in his heart, not in his head, in his heart. So that is that feeling places where we can find our truth and our true nature. Why is it important enough to be included in our daily prayer, in the prayer as itself? Why is it that statement such a thing that it needs to be affirmed every time if no other time when we sing it on Sunday morning?
Well, as in our humanness, we need to be reminded that to walk by faith, to walk by knowing that, our needs are going to be met. We might not have everything we want, but His Word promises that the needs that we have will be met. So if our needs are met, there's no reason for us to necessarily think bad thoughts that I gotta take it and do it myself, because He's always there to provide. We forget, we forget that. What's the saying in the Bible? I walk by faith, not by sight. So when and I'm talking again to Glow, I have got to. And I have started to, in my own daily meditations, know that I might not have this, that, or the other, but I have a Father who has it all. Who has it all.
It's His pleasure to give.
And it is His pleasure to give. That's right.
When we bring it back down just to kind of to your own selves and your own just little daily nuances of things, each of us has stuff that we say, oh, I ain't gonna do that no more, and whatever, but before we catch ourselves, we're doing it again. Whether it's making judgments, well, this might be that chocolate piece of candy, the ice cream calling our name, or whatever, We all have the stuff out there that we get tempted by. They said the little foxes spoil life. But as we are pulling ourselves together and becoming more attuned to and aware of who we really are and whose we really are, does those types of temptations change?
That might come in a different form,
But there's still things out there that will pull us away from that living in the moment, that truth. Things that will, they talk about the layers of the onion. So even as you pull off layers of onion, I got this hand off, that's done, that's fixed. But 5 layers down, you hit that same issue again, potentially in your life. That same fear, doubt, whatever. But I dealt with that years ago. I thought I was over that. I had that handled. as you're growing, you're learning it at a different level. I mean, think about it. We all started off in first grade, first day of school, learning 1 + 1 is 2. But that we were through with math at that point.
Right.
We had to take it the rest of all 12 grades. We felt was some new level of math.
And it just added on and
Added
added
on.
on. So I mean, you got a good foundation. You just add it on. So now you know you can't add and subtract. You can't add without subtracting. You subtract and multiply. So you just add on as you kept going. So as you continue to peel off the layers, it should get better, not worse.
It should get better, but for sometimes we get stuck there. We get
That's
stuck.
bad.
That's it. And that's that leading into
Temptation. Okay. Don't get
and
stuck.
delivering from evil, because that while we're in the moment and we're doing those things, it's the shadow of death. But sometimes we get stuck in that valley.
That's when you have a conversation with God.
God, there you go.
Right.
Pull out the book.
Because we get, and just like I said, it's not necessarily always the big things. It's sometimes those very little things that we trip ourselves up on without, because, they're so small we don't even pay any attention to them necessarily. We're just moving right along, not in nothing, doing whatever. And then all of a sudden we hit a wall. And like, oh, wait a minute, how did I get here? What happened? But it's as we're growing and peeling off all the, or not even peeling off, blending the humanity and the spiritual. Because we got our human nature, we got our spirit nature, but we are one. And we said that all is one. So we got to see those as being separate as we're pulling them together to become the cake. Not just the eggs and the flour, but becoming the cake that you are. Then there are times that as you're blending stuff together, some things, one egg may not be as fresh as the other egg. And you, oops, gotta throw that one out, gotta get another one. And we're moving along in our life, in our process of those things, and we sometimes forget something. You gotta run to the store, Walmart first thing this morning to get the rest of the stuff for breakfast, because we didn't have all of what we thought we needed for it. And when we get there, and remember, I didn't have this, so I gotta run to the store for it. I forgot this piece. We get sometimes in fear about that missing or forgotten thing. And unless we catch it and have that conversation with God, sometimes it can really take us kind of over the edge. Stuff happens in our lives 24 hours a day, whether we're aware of it or not. Some things we never even pay attention to. Some things we put on our brakes for. Those things that make us the screech brakes. Why? Why are those things that, if we know we're God and God's, and then whatever God got, we got, what are those things that cause us to just slam on brakes? What is that feeling like in here?
Well, I think a lot of it is complacency, and it's like what he was saying, that we become attached. We're satisfied with things as they are. Like when I was 5 years old, I learned how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And then they said, do you want to learn how to make a cake and cook a gourmet meal? I said, hell no. I mean, a peanut butter and jelly sandwich is fine.
Served you fine.
That's all I need.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't understand why we have to keep doing more. It's like learning how to count. When I was in kindergarten, I could count to 3. I was satisfied.
You need to 10.
Now I know the formula for resonant frequency.
There you go.
Resonant frequency equals 1/2 pi FC. Well, who cares?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm no better off than when I could count to 3. So, sometimes you just want to stick with what we got. It's safe, it's easy. Like if I'm in an airplane and somebody says, hey, let's try skydiving, I say, hey, I'm fine right here in the airplane.
But you're not gonna move forward, baby.
But you lose the thrill of skydiving if you just stay in your seat.
And so that's a good segue to the next part of that. Deliver us from evil. And we said evil was life backwards.
Yeah.
So that's complacency. So if we're here to expect, Jesus said, these things I've done, you will do, and even greater.
Right.
So that means that continual growth and expansion. And when we get stuck in my peanut butter and jelly sandwich, you don't get to experience my ice cream pudding.
Right, that's right. That's right. Yeah,
You don't know what you're not missing.
Yeah.
yeah.
We can do greater in this life or another life.
Mhm.
There you go.
There you go. Exactly.
You don't need it.
We're not a stagnant being.
Right.
God's not. It's ever expanding. And so sometimes we just do that. Putting on the brake says, I'm not going there. I'm not going any further. I'm stopping right now. We all need to, for every now and then, stop and take a breath. But do you stay there in that stopped place? Then that's when you go into living backwards. As long as you're living forward, you will be moving. We all have to go to a woosah every now and then to recenter ourselves. But I move through that piece. So that's one of the reasons for that part of being in the prayer. Even those little things that, I had my 2 pieces of chocolate I allowed myself today. That third was sitting there on my desk and I see it in my hand. But, am I going to die if I eat the third piece?
Not
Oh.
immediately.
Not not immediately. I'm gonna die. If I don't eat it, I'm gonna die eventually. But is that gonna cause me to pass out on the floor and cardiac arrest right now? Not necessarily. But is it serving? Somebody said about what serves you anymore. Is it serving me or not? Is it, all things are good, but not all things are profitable. So it's out there, it exists. But each of us know that there are some things that, although it's out there, it's readily available, it doesn't serve us. Rosemary decided to be gluten-free. And that's something that she's figured out through trial and error what serves her and what does not serve her anymore. She's figured out, when she first, Rosemary, what can you eat then? It's gluten and everything. But she's figured out, obviously she's still alive, she's still eating, she's still with us. She hadn't been, she hadn't passed out in a coma somewhere.
Not
So,
yet.
not yet. But she's still, Deborah runs not into nothing, but she eats only vegetables. At one point she could eat fish. Fish is no longer serving, so she's totally away from all kind of meats like that. But she's found what serves her. And we all have those things to make our lives more obedient. And so that's what that piece of the prayer is there for, saying to us to stop and think about those tempting things to stop us from being and expressing who we really are. And from growth, from growing and expanding. If I'm still stuck, if I'm not only at peanut butter and jelly, or I'm still at the fight I had with whoever 20 years ago. Somebody I was talking to the last week or two was mentioning about a friend of theirs that somebody they went to school with that was a bully, kind of a bully person, whatever. And they still remember very vividly all of the things this person said to them, or whatever. Well, there was a class reunion they'd gone to. Person didn't remember them at all. Didn't remember them at all, much less. And when they said about bullying, yeah, I was a bully. Maybe I did bully you. I probably did. I was a bully during that time. But this person is 20 years down the road, doesn't even remember you. But you still stuck at what she said to you then.
Boy, look at that brown grass. No growth.
That's stuck. That's not living. That's being
Stuck.
So that's that evil, because you've kept yourself in a prison.
Wow.
Exactly.
Wow. Come
You've
out
kept
that
yourself
back
in that prison. That's the evil you've created for you. The person did and said it. They moved on with their life, went on. You got locked in right there. And every time, and that in that prison you built for yourself there, because this person, where we went with that conversation was, I remember who was I, was what happened by this person bullying you and how you took that and personalized it, made it your life story. Now has a way, in every other relationship you get into, you're replaying that same thing.
Just like past bad relationships.
It's created, this person is what we're talking about. This has created all these bad relationships because she's brought in to this history of her, this 14-year-old that's bullied, and people picking on her, not treating her out. That's how she sees every relationship she attempts to get into now. From that same 14-year-old scared being bullied little girl, young girl. And she's taking that with her. She's still that, 20 years, she's still the 14-year-old, no matter what her chronological age is, no matter what her driver's license says, her heart, her feelings are still that 14-year-old girl.
So tell us how you move forward. I mean, because people do things like that in past relationships. I was married to him, or he was terrible, I want to hold on to it forever because you'll never be no good. God, how do you move forward?
You start if you want to move forward. I mean, everybody's got their own personal
I mean, because hold on, I got people that I know. I was a child, but then they're grown and they still holding that grudge against your daddy said, your daddy did this, and they can't turn loose that past, and they want everybody else to hate them because I hate them. Well,
You just get away from that
Well,
person.
that was an early part of the prayer.
that person left your mama.
Oh,
You still waiting.
That's the earlier part of the prayer about the trespass, forgiving those that trespass against us.
Ooh, you have 10 moves, right?
We were supposed to ask that even before we get to that.
Let it go. Yeah.
Okay, the way we do it in 12-step
Steps,
recovery
uh-huh.
program is we have to own our action,
Our part of
our
it.
part of it.
Mhm.
And by doing that, I can realize that, if I was bullied at school, all right, what was my part in it?
Mhm.
Because I had to have a part in it.
Mhm.
Even if it was just the fact that I didn't go tell on him
Mhm.
and he kept doing it, I
Mhm.
had a part
Part
in
in
it.
Mhm.
And so I own my part in it, and then I can literally learn to forgive that person by making amends to them. I see them at the class reunion. I'm sorry that we didn't get along. I wish we could have been better friends. That's all you got to do. And it's a process. It's not an event, and it's something you got to practice.
Mhm.
And I'm sure. And then it's ego when I get there, and cause I was a bully. I was probably the biggest bully in the school. And I get there and thinking that, wow, these people really ain't gonna like me, cause I was so bad, so mean. Most of them don't even remember. Most of them don't even remember. So that's my ego thinking, I had made an impression on them.
Mhm.
Most of them don't even remember.
Mhm.
They just know that they were in my class.
Mhm.
I think another step, because something that I did when I was, cause it took me a long time to understand that, forgive someone.
Mhm.
I'm like, how do you do that?
Mhm.
Look what they did.
Why should I forgive them? They were wrong.
But